please take over.
Yeah. So welcome everyone that came in this Thursday afternoon. Our fourth online meetup, why crypto mass adoption is inevitable. So our special guest will be Stokes. He's from FIO, which is a foundation for Interwallet Operability. So we're going to talk a little bit about the foundation in a minute, but I just want to explain a little bit about myself and the format of this webinar. My name is Paula. I'm one of the board members of SBA along with Sukesh. I'm also founder of Blockchain PR, and I have a podcast also called Blockchain PR. And yeah, so I got involved with SBA for about a year or so now. And my background is not tech background. My background is in marketing. And I kind of fell into crypto. I started working with companies within the blockchain and crypto sectors with their marketing strategy. And that's how I got involved with crypto in the first place. And so about this webinar, we try a different format, a little bit more interactive. We are gonna have a quick chat. Luke is gonna do a presentation about the theme, about crypto mass adoption. And then you guys can write your questions whenever you feel like in the chat, but don't speak, don't unmute your microphone. I'll be reading out the questions. And I'll be managing the chat. Any problems, any problems with audio, just ping me on the chat. I would take a look. And so now Sukesh is going to talk a little bit about SBA and our mission. So Sukesh.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned earlier, Swedish Blockchain Association, short form SBA, has been there for almost 3 years in the Nordic blockchain space. So since the inception, so our this is a nonprofit organization. So we basically help out individuals and companies in whoever is interested about the blockchain technology and in the Nordic region in general, basically with connections, knowledge, and also education. So we have organized a couple of big events, and we will be doing a lot of webinars during since last couple of months, but also like in the following months as well. So if you have some questions or anything, if you're representing a startup or if you're an investor, you can always go check out our website. We also have a portal where you can join our ecosystem as a member, and you can sign up and you can list your projects there, or you can sign up as an investor, or you can sign up as a mentor. So anyone, so it's like an interactive portal connecting the community here in the Nordic region. So please do check out the portal as well. And that's it. I'm really glad that we have Luke here to talk about crypto mass adoption. I know they're doing some awesome things at FIO Foundation, but also FIO Blockchain Network in general. So without any further ado, I would like to officially welcome Luke Stokes, Managing Director of FIO Foundation. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'll just give a little background and then I can jump in my presentation. I think I'll need screen sharing permissions if you could give me those. That's great. Again, my name is Luke Stokes. I've been, let's see, I got a background in computer science. So I started as a programmer. I built my first websites, I think in like 1996 or so. I majored in computer science and started a company called FoxyCart. It's an e-commerce shopping cart platform that I've been, was working on for quite a bit. So I was familiar with the payment industry, the payment space. Started that in around 2007 with a business partner. And through that process, got introduced to cryptocurrency as I was looking at different payment systems in 2013. So I spent about $50 and I got 2.5 Bitcoin. So I was pretty excited about that purchase and just kind of went all in learning about cryptocurrency and blockchain and really passionately believing that this could be fundamentally disruptive for the world and really be a significant thing within my lifetime to participate in. So I got more involved over time. Also got a little bit frustrated that, people weren't able to use cryptocurrency. So we were trying to get people to accept it in our shopping cart platform, but it was just kind of creating cart abandonment, and people were just like confused by it, saying, okay, how does this actually work? I don't know that we want to integrate it into our store. And we had thousands of stores that were using the system, and we couldn't get them to integrate with Bitcoin. I think at the time in 2013, we were integrated with BitPay, and we were blogging about it and talking about it with our community. And they were kind of just like, I don't know. And I had started a Bitcoin meetup in Nashville. So we had a community events going on. And it just through that process, I got a little disillusioned. When the price went from 1,200 down to 250, you see the community kind of scatter a little bit. And I was not seeing people excited to use it as a payment platform, which is what I was really hoping to see, because I was seeing firsthand the credit card fees and things that were being charged and things that were being done in the financial industry. And so through that process, kind of got a little disillusionment. There was no on-chain consensus for figuring out how to deal with the protocol changes. So we had the whole block size debate in 2014, 15, 16. And so it was around 2016, got involved in Steam. I was really interested in a blockchain that was just usable, people just blogging and stuff and earning crypto, human readable names for their account addresses. Those things really appealed to me because I was wanting to see more mass adoption of this. I was really excited about how this could change the world. And through that, got involved in delegated proof of stake consensus algorithms, eventually became a block producer there on Steam, which is now Hive. And through that process, eventually got recruited by the EOS community via EOS DAC, which is a decentralized autonomous community block producer. So we're a DAC enabler and a DAC block producer. So I've been working with them for the last couple of years. Through that process, eventually, after I moved here to Puerto Rico, I ended up meeting Brock Pierce and his community, working with Block One, the EOS. So we were working for about 6 to 9 months on an EOS Foundation idea. We were going to build a DAC for the EOS community. It didn't end up working out, but I really learned a lot and had some great relational connections with that. And through that process, eventually in 2018, I sold my business so I could focus full time on cryptocurrency, blockchain, consulting, and advising. So I sold that after 10 years back to my business partner. That was right at the end of 2017. So right as the crazy hype, looking at my wallet, going, "Wow, it's crypto is where I should focus." And then it's just been an amazing wild ride. After that, around October in 2018, after doing consulting for a lot of different groups, I ended up meeting Dapix, which is the VC-backed company that built the first version of the FIO protocol. And they're based in Denver, Colorado, after I was doing a speaking event there. And got really excited about this protocol to make crypto easier. So I have a presentation that I'll kind of go through what FIO is and hopefully tie it really into our core topic. So it's not just like a pitch event. Obviously, I want to talk about FIO and present FIO, but it's in the context of why I think this is important for mass adoption based on my experience with the current payment systems, what people expect, how easy things have to be, and how they're essentially not that right now in the crypto space. So I guess I'll just go ahead and start up my slides here. Yes. And then we can go from there, and I'll go through the slides fairly quickly here. And hold on, I got to get to a different screen. There you are. Wonderful. All right, so let me know if you can see this all right. If not, just stop me. And I'm going to go ahead and hit present. Thank you. All right, here we go. So FIO is the foundation for Interwallet Operability, and our plan is to make crypto products easier so anyone can use them. We really want to make cryptocurrency a joyful experience. We really think that's kind of what's required to get there. And I'm going to go through this presentation, and then I may backfill a little bit with some more thoughts related specifically to mass adoption. So as I mentioned, I was doing presentations in 2013. One of them I remember was, Bitcoin more disruptive than the internet. And at the time I had read an article by Rick Falkfinge where he said, and this is Bitcoin was around $40 a coin right now at this point. And he's like, the target price isn't, $50 or $100. The target price is $100,000 to $1 million. And I was like, wow, that's a bold claim. How is he making that claim? And as I read through his analysis of the global payment industry, I realized this was inevitable, essentially. And this presentation, and you can still find it on YouTube if you're interested, but it talks through the history of money. Basically, there's been 7 different world reserve currencies throughout the history of money. There's been hundreds and 700 plus different fiat currencies. The average lifespan is about 26 years or 29 years for a fiat currency. And when you look at like the Bretton Woods, well, actually all the way back to 1913 and the Federal Reserve Act from the US perspective. And the reason why this impacts the whole world is in 1944, after the wars, the Bretton Woods Agreement essentially said, hey, the whole world, you're all kind of blown up. How about you send all your gold to us? We'll put it in Fort Knox and we'll create a dollar that's pegged to gold. And then you can peg your dollar to our dollar and everyone will be happy. And this was kind of this global agreement that ended up turning into one of the largest heists of financial value the world has ever seen, because the United States essentially, I think, pretty much used that gold to build aircraft carriers and become a world military power. So through that process, as of 1971 in the Nixon shock, they basically were just like, hey, yeah, remember that whole gold standard thing? We're just going to move off of that. Sorry. And it's really a problem. If you look at a lot of economic indicators, a lot of things changed in the 70s because of that hyperinflation in a lot of places. And it's been really disruptive. So as I've looked at Bitcoin as a payment mechanism, as a network, and as an actual uncensorable payment product that governments can't be involved in, I've really been passionately convinced this is going to change the world. But how do we get there? How do we get to mass adoption? I already mentioned that I ran a company with my co-founder called FoxyCart, and I was blogging about this in 2013. This fake internet money that people were like, what the heck is this? This was one of our mascots was this rainbow pooping unicorn. So we tied that into our branding as we talked about Bitcoin and why it's so important, why our stores should actually integrate and accept Bitcoin. If any of them listened, they would have done very well, accepting Bitcoin at $100 or $200 a coin when it's now close to 13,000. But unfortunately, not many people listened because it was just too complicated to use. So when you think about it in 2013, no one really cared. We had thousands of stores with FoxyCart, as I mentioned before, but it's just too confusing, too much friction, cart abandonment, too hard to use for most people. And as we did this with FIO, we actually did a blockchain usability survey in 2019. And we found that like a whole 3/4 of the people were less confident sending tokens. It just wasn't a joyful experience. There's stress involved. You're checking all the different characters in the address and you're copying and pasting different addresses. And you're not really sure. You're scanning a QR code, but it's insecure and you don't know if it's the valid address you're supposed to be sending it to. As you're exchanging public keys between the person you want to send and yourself, you're not sure if there's a man in the middle attack. And we have a whole 6% of people. And a man in the middle attack is basically, I'm trying to get your public key and you're trying to send it to me, but someone in the middle intercepts that message and swaps it out with their own key. And then I receive that and I send it thinking I'm sending to you, but I actually send to an attacker. And this is unfortunately way too common, especially with QR codes, because they're, again, just unencrypted. There's no way to officially know that what you're scanning is the same address that what you were told to in an outside communication channel. Or they do like test sends, which is just frustrating. Well, I send it to you and you have to wait for the number of confirmations. Did you get it? Okay, well now I'll send the rest, So there's lost funds due to public address errors or sending to the wrong chain, Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash or whatever in exchanges, or just other, certain problems, one or more problems, a whole 55%. That's a failing average, that's worse than failing. And so we even if we think that, when I look back at the history of money and I look how it's always been a ledger, money's always been a ledger, even when it was like stones with holes in them or shells or tally sticks or pieces of paper or gold or whatever, it's always been a mechanism for keeping track of debits and credits between humans. And some people talk about, well, it started with barter. It's like, well, even barter, they had mechanisms of a ledger to keep track of, even in gift economies to some degree, there's a concept of a ledger, and it's usually tokenized in some way. So I look at blockchain technology as the best ledger ever invented, and therefore it's the best form of money ever invented. I mean, you look at Gresham's law and other different studies of money, it's pretty much, in my opinion, inevitable that this money will end up becoming strong money and the strongest money and become adopted. And you're already seeing this with, yesterday's announcement of PayPal accepting cryptocurrency. A lot of institutional investors and a lot of people are moving cryptocurrency. And what I find so hilarious about it is a lot of these corporate, like JP Morgan and others are the very same people saying it's the worst thing ever, we'll never get involved. And, they're saying that as they're accumulating and they're building infrastructure to support it because they know these same things, it's inevitable. And so when I think through this going, okay, how do we solve this? If this is inevitable, if it's the best ledger ever invented, but it's just too difficult. And there's all these different, one of the things you have to think about is, okay, maybe it might just be Bitcoin. And maybe there's some Bitcoin Maximalists on the call or watching this video and they think, yep, it's all going to be Bitcoin. And it might be, I'm not going to say it's not, but my hunch is when it comes to digital infrastructure and the extent beyond just digital peer-to-peer cash or money, the blockchain technology, Byzantine fault tolerance, that security protocol, that decentralized immutable proof that's uncensorable is so much more valuable than just currency, that there's all kinds of other opportunities that are going to be built on a blockchain. And we see that with things like Hive, where you can, be blogging to earn crypto. You see that with different opportunities in everything from the medical industry to supply chain and on and on and on. So it's one of those things that it's, I think, you can make a strong argument. There's at least going to be dozens of valuable blockchains. And if you think about blockchain technology, you always have to have a token that supports the security of the blockchain. Because the way blockchain works, the cryptocurrency is given out to the validators of that blockchain. And we've seen this like Ethereum Classic and others. If the token price is not enough, or in delegated proof of stake, if you don't have enough hashing power, enough reward to keep that secure, or you don't have a high token price in delegated proof of stake to keep it expensive to attack the network, then the network ends up becoming attacked, and then you eventually don't have the same security. So therefore it's not a very good ledger, and therefore you can't separate the value of the token with the security of the chain. So it's really important that the validators get paid well and all of these things. But so you're probably going to have multiple chains, at least dozens. So now we're going to say, okay, well, how do we solve the usability problem with all these different tokens and chains and addresses? And when people are used to just simple handles like PayPal or Venmo. And there's also kind of like this idea of, do we want a centralized solution for solving these usability problems, or do we want something decentralized? So I mentioned PayPal just announcing, and they're already getting criticism from the cryptocurrency community. If you follow on Twitter, people are realizing like, this isn't really self-sovereign. I don't get to actually control it myself because I don't get access to the private key. And rule number one of cryptocurrency, not your keys, not your coins. If you don't have access to transfer those funds, then you can be censored, and you're basically giving it to them, and hopefully someday they'll give it back to you. And there are other solutions like PayID, which is very interesting. I'm excited about the potential there, but it also locks your PayID into a domain that is controlled usually by a company, unless you run your own web server, which most people, aren't going to do. If I was to have, for example, Luke at $Microsoft.com, and that was my PayID that I put on my business cards and shared with everyone, it's kind of like an email address. I don't really control it, right? Like I'm fine with Gmail having control of my email address, but when it comes to my money, I kind of want to have control of that. So we're kind of thinking through, what are the challenges to this mass adoption? If we do think it's inevitable, but it's hindered by this difficulty, how do we get around that? And one of the analogies I like to think through is how this happened with the internet. You had 10 years of the internet without really kind of much adoption. But then this usability layer comes out with HTTP, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. This enabled the World Wide Web, web browsers, other opportunities to interact with this technology in a way that people were like, hey, I get it now. I can build on that. I can build cool stuff. And then you get this, amazing explosion of growth where people are using the internet, they can understand it. You get, email, web, Gmail, eventually Netflix, eventually, all these cool things, whatever link we clicked on to join this Zoom call, for example. It's really neat to think that HTTP enabled that to happen. And we feel there's a great analogy to what we're doing with FIO. So let me talk a little bit more about FIO, and then again, we'll backfill this with your questions and other kind of tie it all together as far as usability and how it relates to mass adoption. So it's an industry-led consortia, because part of this is if it's just some centralized thing that some group of people control, we're not going to be able to reach trust that this can be an open source, open protocol that everyone else can participate in. So it's really important that this is industry led. It's not just a small group of people saying, hey, we'd like you to do it this way so we can make a lot of money. The idea is we'd like us all to do it this way. And if the tokenomics are correct, everyone who creates value in this system benefits from the system. And so there are incentives for the wallets and exchanges to integrate the FIO protocol. There's also self-sovereign user control. So I own Luke at Stokes as like an NFT, and I can map any address I want to that. I own the Stokes domain, and it's currently private, so you can't register another address on the Stokes domain unless I allow it. And so I have full self-sovereign control of that, which I really think is important. It's fully open source and decentralized. So we have, I think, 36 different block producers today, and anyone, it's permissionless, so anyone can sign up to be a block producer and start producing on the network if they receive enough votes from the community. And it's independent from other blockchains. It doesn't actually integrate directly with any of the other blockchains. It's actually a usability layer that sits alongside all the other blockchains in someone's wallet. So when a FIO request or FIO send happens, it doesn't actually have to talk to the blockchain. We'll get into that a little bit as well. And that makes it completely agnostic to whatever blockchain or token or coin it wants to use FIO. And it's the same with the wallet. It can be integrated into any wallet, including an exchange wallet, custodial wallet, non-custodial wallet, doesn't matter. So I'll just talk a little bit about the features of FIO. There are FIO addresses, FIO requests, and FIO data. We're actually kind of talking about using the terminology FIO handle just in the last few days, because even addresses, people are just programmed to think this long string of crazy characters. So we do giveaways and things like that. We say, hey, leave your FIO address below, and they paste their public key. We're like, no, wait, that's what we're trying to avoid and make easier. So FIO addresses are human readable, or your FIO handle is a human readable, like this example, Satoshi at Edge or Jane at Gold. It's a human readable identifier that you can then send and receive cryptocurrency to, or even any other thing in the future as well, even non-crypto assets as well. So it's an identifier for all your crypto, and it's really easy to register, works with any token and coin automatically. You no longer have to deal with these long, crazy addresses. You just can remember Luke at Stokes. You can send from that, or if you get a request from that, you know it's coming from me. And that's the second feature, which is a FIO request. FIO requests are set up in such a way that, you know, in the normal financial world, nothing just starts with, hey, money showed up in my wallet. How the heck did that happen? What's that for? You know, it's always initiated by a request. You get a payment invoice. You get you got a bill to pay your rent. You know, you got to split your lunch with someone and they're like, hey, can you give me $5? You know, it always starts with a request. And so FIO enables that in the cryptocurrency space, because cryptocurrency is always a push situation. But now with FIO requests, you can request funds, it shows up in someone's wallet, and they say, oh, okay, that's Luke at Stokes. Yes, that's the exact amount, what we agreed on. And that's the token type we talked about. And you just, you know, in your wallet, approve it, and it gets sent off. So very, very excited about the FIO request. I think this is an important feature to enable people to feel comfortable and confident using cryptocurrency. Because if they have to deal with the public addresses, or have to deal with the concern of the man in the middle attack, meaning, am I really sending this to the right person? When they get that request from the address that they've already verified, they know it's Luke at Stokes, they can say, okay, I feel comfortable, I feel confident, and I feel, you know, that I can go ahead and do this without a problem. So that's another really important part of making cryptocurrency easier for everybody. And then, of course, we also have this FIO data, which is basically just like a memo. The idea that I can send a FIO request with a description of what that transaction's about. You know, hey, this is for dinner, you know, or something like that. That's a really important missing part as well, because not every chain in the cryptocurrency ecosystem supports memos. You know, some do, some don't. And you can have a transaction where you're like, wait, what was that for? And it can be very difficult for taxes and accounting or anything like that. So we do feel like this is a really important feature, and it can be more than just text. It can actually be a link to data somewhere else with a hash to validate that data. And it can include an order card or an invoice or anything else that you might want to include in that. This is a little bit outdated here. We actually have a bunch more wallets that have gone with their full integration. And we have even more we haven't announced yet. Actually, we have a press release that's being worked on right now. But Shapeshift, for example, is fully integrated. Konami is fully integrated. Mycelium is fully integrated. Infinito is fully integrated. So we're very, very excited about the ecosystem that's growing with FIO Protocol. We have some more here listed as well. And you can check these out at fioprotocol.io/ecosystem. And we do actually have, if I go back one, let's see if it's on here. The BitMax integration is actually fully integrated as well. BitMax and ChangeNow. Both of those are fully integrated, which means that you can now interact, buy and sell cryptocurrency or swap cryptocurrency with ChangeNow without ever having to see a complicated public address, which I'm really, really excited about. That means we can take people today who are used to PayPal, Venmo, you know, very simple experience where they have a handle for their account, and bring them into the cryptocurrency space, have them even exchange different cryptocurrencies, whether they want to go from Bitcoin to a stable coin or anything else, without ever having to teach them about complicated public addresses. We can get them their FIO handle and they can interact with these exchanges. And I'm very, very excited about that. I think that's a really big news story that most people don't realize how important it is for mass adoption, for that usability layer to be simple to use. And we've covered some of this already, but I just want to go over kind of the details. when you can register your FIO address in wallet, and you don't even have to have FIO tokens to do it. For example, you could actually pay with Bitcoin. The foundation is running a registration site, so you can pay with Bitcoin, Ethereum, or stable tokens. And so you can get your FIO address. It's about $2 a year to get a FIO address. And there are a number of wallets currently that are running campaigns to provide free FIO addresses on the wallet's domain. And we're, we may not be able to run that forever, but currently the foundation is subsidizing that. And then once the payments are made, FIO does the on-chain fees. A portion of that is distributed to the wallet and to the foundation. And in addition to the 10% and 5% here, there's also 40% that's minted by the chain as an additional benefit early on for the wallet. So again, we're trying to close the loop on the tokenomics so that everyone who adds value in the system gets rewarded by the system. Currently, it's 85% that goes to the block producers to secure the network. But just this week even, and we had our block producer meeting yesterday, we're talking about potentially changing this because of this user incentive model that we have, where you could get rewarded almost like a co-op, portion of future fees if you're spending fees today. And also, so like if you're registering addresses, domains, things of that nature, there's an opportunity for you to earn tokens through that process, or if you were to stake tokens. So these are ideas that we're looking at, and so far our block producers are very excited about it. And the tokens might be reserved for voting and also setting up your own block producer. So there's a lot of very interesting people that are excited about it. I won't bother with you, with all these quotes and things, but it's cool and people like it. That's basically the summary of that. We've got a great knowledge base. If you want to learn more about it, I'll skim through this stuff pretty quickly. The developer hub is there. Again, it's completely open source. All our GitHub is open. Anyone can integrate this protocol into their products and services. And that's pretty much it for the presentation. Let's go ahead and stop the share so we can see each other. And I wanted to kind of tie that in a little bit. And oh, cool. I see we got questions as well. So I'm really looking forward to diving into those.
Yeah. But now, look, if you want to wrap things up, then
yeah. So I just, to kind of wrap things up there, the summary is essentially, this is the best form of money ever invented. It does seem to be inevitable that it will be adopted, but there is this hindrance to adoption, which is the usability concerns right now. And so if we think about that, if we can solve that issue, we get to accelerate the process for mass adoption. It can happen sooner. And that's why I'm focused on FIO, because I do believe having sound money and having money that's not controlled by governments that often can be very violent and dangerous. If you're familiar with the term democide, it's 260 million humans have died because of government action. So I'm a very passionate advocate for voluntarism and this idea that all human interaction should be voluntary. And if we have a way to do financial instruments that can be according to that ethos of voluntary interactions, we can build a world we all want to be a part of. So do you want to read through the questions, or would you like me to read through them?
Let me read through them.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, there's some comments. I asked some question, a question actually, to the people in the chat. How long do they think crypto mass adoption is going to happen? So we had interesting comments here. One is from Anastasia. Hi, Anastasia. She said it's going to take longer than 5 years, even though crypto is fascinating and the way blockchain technology works is beautiful, but it still is in nascent stage. And then she goes on, it requires also proper research in many institutions, not just financial ones, which is a good point. And also, there's another interesting point here. He said, two scenarios here. Mass adoption, we were talking about definition, what would be considered a mass adoption. And he said it could be people will actually send cryptos in a typical transaction with crypto under the hood, or in case the users do not even need to know what cryptos are used. So that's a good definition of mass adoption, I think. And a question from Anastasia, sorry. Does FIO run on POS blockchain?
Excellent. Yeah, I'd love to talk through that. So I actually answered that last one. It's a delegated proof of stake. It's a version of the EOS.io technology. So it's been heavily modified though, but it is at the time when the company was building the first version of the protocol, they evaluated a whole bunch of different chains and looked at which ones could have the actual performance and throughput required to be effective. And EOS.io was the best leading candidate at the time. And so it's been modified though to remove all the complexities. If you're familiar with EOS mainnet, that they have with like staking and resources. And it can be very confusing to set up an account. And right now you could just, create an account on FIO, super, super simple, super easy. If you just transfer tokens to a public key, an account is created automatically under the hood. So it's highly performant and much improved as far as the usability on the EOSIO side. As far as like when mass adoption, that's a great question. If you were to ask me in 2013, I would have said, we're going to be there by now. But more as I got into it more, I realized that we're kind of like in the early days of the internet, still probably in the 90s. You probably even haven't seen our 2001 bubble moment. I have friends of mine that have been tracking the exponential growth of exponential technologies and the doublings, and how they happen. And he's been literally, this one person in particular I'm thinking of, he's been tracking it for the whole 10 years. Like he read the white paper early on, and he says we're about 1 to 2% right now. And so by the end of the year, I think he says around 2%. Next year, if we hit that 4%, and he's been watching the doublings every time, from 4% to 16% to 32, I mean, it ramps up extremely quickly. And it's, if you've read some of Nassim Taleb's work and others, like, exponential growth is not something humans are good at measuring and being familiar with, like if you at Black Swan and other things like that. So it is one of those things I think will surprise a lot of people how quickly it happens. So from that, you could say, maybe it's going to happen in the next handful of years, from 3, 5, 10 years, maybe. But we'll see. There's a lot of variables, of course. And that's a good question too. What is the definition of mass adoption? I think for me, it's that cryptocurrency is a household name. It's that, pretty much anything you want to buy, you can buy with cryptocurrency, and you can buy with, the majority of cryptocurrency. So even if you have a cryptocurrency that maybe isn't as popular as others, you'd have some very easy DeFi swap that you could just swap in and out and go ahead and use whatever cryptocurrency they prefer. There's a really great talk by Andreas Antonopoulos about currency as language, and how he makes a good argument for how these different currencies can coexist as a form of expression, where I would use my token or you use your token, because that's what our community tribe is excited about.
I think I actually agree with that, because like I keep seeing these days, like even my mother is also asking about cryptocurrencies and like what exactly is it, because she keeps hearing about this stuff back in India. And now, even though she doesn't understanding everything, but like she kind of relates it to like a like a stock market thing or something right now. But that's kind of like a good thing, because like people are getting familiar, at least like on a very basic level. Okay, there's a cryptocurrency thing that is going on.
It's definitely growing in awareness as well, and I've seen this over the last 7.5 years. There's a good question in here about will people actually be thinking about crypto, or will it just be crypto under the hood? And that's a really good question. I think like the XRP community, for example, I think feels strongly that you can integrate with existing banking system, and kind of instead of using SWIFT or ACH or all these other kind of mechanisms that people are using now, they're kind of slow and outdated. They can use crypto under the hood, but still keep it just oblivious. And you've got these CBDCs, these central bank digital currencies that are coming out. You've got a lot of people thinking, there's even this concept of instant banking that some will say might just eat the lunch of a lot of cryptocurrencies. Why would I bother cryptocurrency if I can just instantly transfer any money anywhere in the world? That from a payment perspective, maybe crypto becomes less interesting for everyday users. But I think my response to that is more about the real harm of capital controls, hyperinflation. I mean, again, as more and more, and you're seeing this with all the protests throughout the world, as they see more and more governments trying to take value and power from the citizens. Hyperinflation right now in the United States is some are arguing is coming. You can't just print trillions and trillions of dollars without a negative financial impact at some point. So my assumption is that eventually more and more people are going to get educated about the importance of this. Now, that said, that might be a little idealistic. It may take a while, because some people still believe that their money's in their bank account. They see that big vault door and they think, oh yeah, my money's in this safe in this building. And they have no idea that their money's not in that building at all. Immediately it's deposited and sent out, and fractional reserve lending, they're lending out, ridiculous amounts more money than is ever deposited. So, it's going to take some education, but I do think, like, when I talk to people about fractional reserve lending and things like that, I'm surprised at how many people are aware of this, and they do recognize like, oh, my money's not actually in that account, and there actually isn't any gold in Fort Knox backing the US dollar. And so financial education is slowly starting to happen, much more so than 5 or 7 years ago. So I'm kind of confident that we can get there with some education.
So there is one other question here. So what are FIO's plans for the future, and how big is FIO's team today?
If you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. I'd love to show you what we are working on here. I got to scroll down and find I've got too many windows open. I got to find the right screen where I have it open. I think, let's see here. One second. I may just go ahead and I'll just go ahead and share my whole screen because it's giving me a little trouble here. So you might see some chat notifications or other things pop up. So I apologize. Right here, because we're a nonprofit organization, a Cayman nonprofit, we actually have the full Atlassian suite of tools. So we have our community page here, which links into a whole bunch of really great stuff. The way we're doing the team members, for example, is through a process of worker proposals. So if you're interested in FIO, like you want to provide value or you want to help, there's a process where you can create initiatives. You can actually look for open opportunities that the foundation is looking to get funded or looking to get completed and is willing to fund. And so this whole process of worker proposals is here. And actually I can drill into that as well. You can look at like all the initiatives. This relates to kind of the roadmap question. And while that's loading, I can also pull up the team page here. So you can see we've got marketing, we've got business development, integration sales, and our development team as well. And I believe, here it is, meet the community. So on the community page, it lists out kind of the main service provider employees of DAPIX, which DAPIX is going through a process, which will hopefully finish up by the end of the year, to decentralize and bring everyone on board as just worker proposals, active workers for the foundation itself. So you have kind of the members of the DAPIX team, David and Paula being the kind of core founders of the protocol, the first people that kind of came up with it. And then we've got our senior blockchain architect, multiple blockchain developers, myself as a managing director. And then what I'm really excited about is we've also started to onboard others outside of the DAPIX community, as you can see here, helping with business development, helping with sales and marketing, with PR as well. I think we have another member that actually hasn't been put on here yet. And then we have the actual foundation board, which includes members from, Paul from the Edge Wallet, Brent from BRD Wallet, George from Konami Wallet, Rami from Scatter Wallet, and Han from the Asian community and one of our block producers. So I'm very, very excited about how the team has grown over time and what we've set up here as far as this process for others to be involved. For the roadmap question, I want to show this real quick. My computer's going a little bit slow for some reason. Just one second. Here we go. What I wanted to show, let's see here. Let me jump over to the JIRA side. And I wanted to show our initiatives under worker proposals here. And from this view, you can kind of see a lot of the different ideas that the community has. And I can talk about a little bit about the process of the FIO improvement proposals we have as well. We call them FIPS, kind of like Bitcoin has different improvement proposals. And so if you come in here, you can see this is the worker proposals. These are people that want to add value, but I want to show the initiatives here. So again, everyone's like job, everything that they do is all available for everyone else to comment on and provide feedback on, like an open DAC. These are the top 4 that we're kind of thinking about right now as far as the next things that we're going to be working on, like private key recovery, multi-sig routing, FIO as a meta solution, verified FIO addresses. And we also have much more here that we're currently working on. These are things that are in progress, things that have been completed, things that are ready for work, things that we have kind of finished our technical definition on, and we're getting community review to make sure it's going to be built correctly before we start building it. And then things that are being defined right now as well. And then of course our roadmap, these are things that are up on deck to be kind of defined in a technical spec and fully thought through. And then these are other ideas that we've been talking about and thinking about as a community. And so another way to look at it from a technical perspective would be to see our FIO improvement proposals. And so you can kind of look here and see, you know, what are the things that we've been working on? What's the current status of it? You know, is it accepted? Has it been completed and deployed on the blockchain? Is it still in a draft? So one of the larger ones I could show you here was FIP 5, where we're talking about an enhanced security so that two people could interact on chain without anyone ever knowing that they interacted, so that their privacy of their mapped tokens, for example, would be completely anonymous. And so this is a pretty extensive FIP with, you know, full-on diagrams and technical specifications of the endpoints that would be added. I mean, you can see the scroll bar here. It's a pretty big FIP that has a lot of detail into it. This is the level of detail that we're going into before we go and build new features into the protocol to make sure that what we're building is correct and to make sure that it's what the community wants. And then we have a lot of buy-in from our users as well before we go and do something. So hopefully that answers that in detail.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about a lot of exchanges and wallets that are already integrated for you. I know like Binance is one of them as well. So maybe you want to talk a bit about how did Binance see FIO integration as the industry leader in a way, but also like if there are any other exchanges or wallets that are interested in integrating FIO, how easy is it for them to do that?
It's, you know, it's funny because we just had a call today with a wallet that we had our team on it, and we thought it was going to be kind of more of a kickoff call to walk through and answer any technical questions for the integration they wanted to do. And we were all pleasantly surprised that they had 4 videos they recorded of a fully integrated product. And so it was amazing. And I was like, oh, wow, you know, we thought you'd have a lot of questions. And so I'm very excited that another wallet is going to be finishing up their integration. We had a couple minor points, little improvements that they could do as far as the usability and workflow. But for the most part, it was a fully integrated with the FIO token, FIO send, FIO request, metadata, all of that. But it's not an easy thing. It's not just a simple API lookup. If you wanted to do FIO send, you know, where it's just like, I want to send Bitcoin to Luke at Stokes, that feature is very easy to implement. It is just an API lookup. But some of the more complicated features like a FIO request involve encryption and decryption of data. So that kind of takes a little bit more time to figure out. And so it's a little bit difficult, but it's also worth it, right? The more and more people that integrate this, and we're as a foundation willing to financially subsidize that effort and help people who need to have resources available to do that integration. And as far as like other exchanges, I can't really talk about that. We are talking to some, but those are generally the one part of everything we're doing that has to stay a little bit more private because of NDAs and things of that nature. You don't want people, you know, speculating because of that. You know, again, FIO is a utility token. It's not a speculative token, but there are people that do that, and there's not much you can say about it. But we do want to integrate with exchanges. And you mentioned Binance. That is certainly something we're interested in, and we're always in conversation with them as part of their Binance Labs family. And so we're looking forward to more and more future projects with them. And it's just a matter of, that's why we're growing that business development team, just kind of letting people know about FIO so they know it exists. They know it's an option that they can implement into their product or service. And that's, you know, that's kind of one of the main goals we have right now. I see another great question here as far as the difference between FIO and other wallet naming solutions. That's a really great question. We actually have a blog post that we did. If you go to FIO Protocol IO and go to our blog, which is over on Medium, there's a whole description. There's a whole description kind of comparing some of these different naming conventions, such as Handshake, ENS, Unstoppable Domains. And one of the common things you'll see with them is that they just do wallet naming. You know, it's not a full usability layer, including metadata, including requests. And we do feel that that's critically important to kind of close the gap as far as what people expect today from their financial tools that are online and what cryptocurrency offers. And also too, you know, I showed that FIP 5 where there's that detailed plan for much heightened privacy and security. You know, that's not even on the roadmap or even technically probably possible with some of these other solutions. And that's something we're very proud of. And we're hoping that people will get more involved in as far as our wallets and integration partners, because they want to do that because privacy matters. And so the idea being, if I was to, instead of just mapping a Bitcoin address that would be public, and that's the same with all the other ones as well. They're all public right now. I could instead only map it for someone that's on my friends list. So basically you and I would friend each other, and then you would have a special Bitcoin mapping that only you could decrypt with a shared key that we have. And that's kind of how FIO requests work right now. So a FIO request, I could set it up so that Luke at Stokes, for example, isn't mapped to anything. And I could set it up in such a way that if someone wanted to send me Bitcoin, I would initiate it as a request first. So then it would be encrypted. So the address being used, the token amount, the memo data, all of that's encrypted with a shared key between the two parties. So there's ability to be much more private and secure with FIO because of the FIO request functionality, as well as future ideas we have to make it even more private. So I think those are some of the key important differences. Also too, we have a tokenomics model, which a lot of the others do not. And I think that's an important driver for the continued ongoing support of the network, both from a security perspective of the blockchain, but also for the integration partners. They have a financial incentive to integrate this product and to continually maintain it. Recently, Unstoppable Domains, which I'm a fan of all of these, and you saw in the top 4, one of our ideas is to create a meta solution so all of these could work together. Ideally, for me as a cryptocurrency user, that would be ideal. I wouldn't have to worry, are you using this protocol or that protocol? It could all just work together. But they recently announced an integration with Twitter, which is fantastic for verifying unstoppable domains. So I went and bought an unstoppable domain, and I was trying to set up my mappings, and their website wasn't working, unfortunately. And I tried it again this morning, and so I can't even interact with it because it seems a bit centralized if I have to go through their one website. So things like that are a little bit frustrating. I tried to map an EOS account to my lukestokes.eth ENS domain recently, and it was just not working again, a bunch of errors. And I went on Twitter saying, hey, can I get help with this? And it's like, I don't know, talk to this guy. And I never got a reply. So it's like having an economic model, a tokenomics model, driving the ecosystem and maintaining value for those who add value, I think is really important for the long-term success of this, which I don't see in some of the other solutions.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I can actually vouch for this from a project that we are working on as well, like with taxes, right? Because it's a big, complicated thing for people to get, if they traded or bought cryptocurrencies or have cryptocurrencies in 10 different blockchains and exchanges. It's just a complicated job to find the public keys, put the account names, and download all the transactions, upload them. And now if you have a FIO account, now you can just easily map all your blockchains just by entering a FIO account name. And then any tool that you're using can probably just scrape all the data related to your accounts from the blockchain directly. So that's a really good use case. And I really like the thing that you mentioned with the memo parts as well. It just makes things easier. Like people do a lot of transactions, and now with memos, you can easily relate, oh, okay, I did this for this thing and that thing and so forth. Yeah. So that's a really great fundamental thing, I think, for mass adoption as well. Do we have any more questions before we wrap things up?
Anyone in the chat, guys? We want to make it very interactive. So we allowed lots of time for questions. But anything else you'd like to add, Luke, that we haven't asked you?
No, you mentioned crypto tax. It's funny. I actually own cryptotaxes.com. It's a domain I got a long time ago. Back when I was a developer more actively, I built a hypermedia API, and I was working out a solution to handle crypto taxes. And it's a very challenging solution for all the reasons you just said. But yeah, I appreciate you guys' time. Thanks so much for having me. I hope that this wasn't too FIO heavy. I wanted to still kind of touch on the history of money, the history of usability of money, and kind of where we are as an industry and where we're going. But if there's any other questions I didn't cover to anyone's satisfaction, you can definitely connect with me on Twitter. I'm Luke Stokes at Twitter, or Luke Stokes on Telegram as well. And I'd be happy to answer any other further questions you have. Hopefully this was interesting for you. And I hope to visit Sweden someday. I hope to come, check out.
Absolutely.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And we hope to visit you in sunny Puerto Rico. Great.
Right.
So guys, thank you very much. Thank you for all very interesting questions. Thank you, Luke, again, Sukesh. SBA, please check us out. We have the portal up and running for our community. It's swedishblockchain.se. And yeah, and this video is going to be on our YouTube channel latest tomorrow, and I'll be sharing on social media. So yeah, thank you again.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.